Okay, so in the previous video, we did our analysis using Ahrefs, and we learned how to filter through the keywords and how to analyze the competition strength using Ahrefs. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to use UberSuggest and MozBar to analyze the strength of the competition. So let's say we typed in a seed keyword best woodworking into UberSuggest, and it gave us several ideas. So you can see here best woodworking stools, etc. And in the previous video, in the Ahrefs video, we analyzed the strength of the competition using best woodworking books. So that was the keyword that we were trying to analyze to see if it is something that we should go ahead with. Now, the first thing that you'll notice if you watch the Ahrefs video, which by the way, I recommend that you watch even if you're not going to use Ahrefs. Ahrefs told us that the keyword difficulty of this keyword was 0, and UberSuggest is telling us that the keyword difficulty of this keyword is 40. So first of all, straight away, you can see that there is a big discrepancy between the difficulty scores between the two tools. What do I think about this? Well, I think that Ahrefs' score is definitely more accurate according to everything that I have seen. So what I've put into the UberSuggest criteria is don't worry too much about SEO difficulty. Unfortunately, if you're going to use free tools, then you're going to do a little bit more manual work to actually assess the keyword difficulty for each keyword. Okay, so now let's enter best woodworking books into Google. Now, a little tip that I'll give you is to always make sure that you use US Google. The way to do this would be to enter for Google US and make sure that you choose this USA Google. So this google.com GL equals US, that's the Google search engine that you want to be using. Now enter best woodworking books in here. And now go ahead and open all of these sources in a new tab. Now you'll notice that I've got my Moz toolbar ready. I'm still having an issue where PA and DA on the first page is coming up as 1-1 everywhere. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what is wrong. Normally this works. There just must be something wrong with my browser settings, or perhaps there's a little temporary issue with the Moz toolbar. I'm not entirely sure. The good thing is that as you look at each individual page, you will be able to see PA27 and DA20 here at the top, and that's the scores that we're interested in. So DA stands for domain authority and PA stands for page authority. So if we just go into this sheet here, you'll notice that on here I've created a separate sheet where you can which you can use to assess the keyword competition difficulty for using UberSuggest and MozBar. So here I've entered best woodworking books. UberSuggest tells us there's 480 searches a month. Keyword difficulty, that we actually should change that, SD says 40, but like I said, don't worry too much about the SEO difficulty score from UberSuggest. Now what you need to do is the exact same thing as what we did in the previous video. So for each of these results, record DA and PA metrics, word count, whether the keyword is in title, and write any comments about it. So I've gone ahead and I've actually gone through and taken these down. So DA20, PA27, DA20, 27. Then I've done the same thing for the second position, 79 and 38. So 79 and 38, etc. I've done that for every page, and we've already done the research into word count as well as whether the keyword was in title or not. If you guys did not watch previous video about how to do all of these in Ahrefs, I still recommend that you go ahead and do that in case you're not entirely sure how to count keywords and how to figure out whether the keyword is in title. The other way actually that you can figure out whether the keyword is in title is just hover your mouse over here over the tab, and it will tell you, see here it says top 5 best woodworking books. So that's why we're saying yes, the keyword best woodworking books is in title. However, if we go into man-made DIY and I hover over that, it says man-made essential toolbox, 7 must-have books, every woodworker. So it does not contain these words, best woodworking books, in the title of the actual page. Okay, so now that we have done all of this and we've gotten our word counts and we've gotten the information whether the keyword is in title or not, then we can now go through the criteria here. So we've spoken about that you don't need to worry about the SD score as much. Now for UberSuggest / MozBar, if you're trying to use free tools to assess the competition, then I recommend that you have at least one site where DA, domain authority, is under 40. And here we have domain authority. There are two websites actually with domain authority under 40. So this one and this one. The other thing that I'll probably jump at you, is that Ahrefs told us that this domain is fairly strong, that it's 58. Okay, so out of these results, this domain rank was actually 58, which is, it's a fairly strong domain rank. But according to MozBar, its domain authority is 20. So you will notice those kinds of things, guys. This is not an exact science. We will never be able to crack Google code exactly. So if you do notice those things, that's unfortunately part of the game. You will be faced with that from time to time. But you will, as long as you do things correctly, you will be right 60 to 70% of the time. The next metric we will talk about is this one here that says that there should be at least one site with PA under 30. So PA stands for page authority, and PA and DA are kind of similar, but the difference is that DA measures the authority for the whole domain. So it takes a total number of all of the backlinks that the site has to all of its pages, whereas page authority measures the authority of a particular page. That's why sometimes you will see that there are discrepancies. There is a fairly... So what would be an example? For example, there is a page with... Let's look at this. See, you've got domain authority 60 and PA 29, and here domain authority 31 and PA 21. So the DA here is almost exactly twice higher, so 60 instead of 30, but PA is only a little bit higher than this one. So to kind of simplify this model, I guess the easiest way to explain this would be that there could be a website that is a very strong website, such as this website with domain authority 60, but there are not many links to this particular page on this site. And in that case, what will happen is that the page authority will be significantly lower than domain authority, whereas here the case is completely different. You can see page authority of 27, whereas domain authority is just 20. So it just means that this particular page attracted a lot of links and is probably performing unusually well for compared to other pages from this domain, which is a fairly weak domain when you look at the spread of the other domains on here. So that's sort of the relationship between the two. Okay, so what we want is we want at least one site with DA under 40 and one site with PA under 30. So let's highlight those. So this is DA under 40 and this is DA under 40. So let's highlight them. And then what we want is we want page authority under 30. So we take this one and this one and this one and this one. Well, this is almost under 30, so we can kind of highlight that as well. And that basically means that there are quite a few weak domains and weak pages that we can see here on page 1 of Google. Other things are staying the same. We want to see at least one site with short content. Here we actually already know from our previous video, we already know that there are 6 websites here on page 1 results that have not a lot of content, and some semi-relevant. So semi-relevant are those that don't have a very close match for this particular keyword, and there are 4 pages with the keyword best woodworking books that is not exactly represented in the title of the search result. So all in all, really good news, and as you can see, with a little bit of manual work, you can actually analyze your keywords pretty easily using free tools such as UberSuggest and MozBar.